That's not my tea, is it?
No.
Oh, your water? Okay.
That's my water.
You can go ahead and get started.
All right. Well, let's start with introductions, if we might. Keith, do you want to start? And let's go around the...
I'm Keith Lights, Coos County Council.
Bobby Burks, board staff.
Raymond Block, founder of Leaven, No Trace.
Mike. Sir.
Paul Ross, corrections worker coordinator.
Thank you.
Well, Katie Espinosa.
How do you do?
Good.
This is JJ Gideon, David Gideon, and I'm Jim Gideon.
Nice to meet all of you.
My name's William Rutherford.
Denise Rutherford.
Jared Barrett.
Piper Lisabelle. Mary Gendry.
Jim Seeley.
Christy Firth. This is Ivan. I'm Reagan's mother.
Hi, Evan. How are you?
Just friends.
Oh, it's far here.
My name's Michael Paul Lay.
I'm Ernie.
I'm John Sweet. I'm the county commissioner.
I'm Melissa Cribbins. I'm also a county commissioner.
Cheryl Westgard, Solid Waste. Kelly Church, Community Corrections.
Mike Grant, Community Corrections Director.
Okay. I'd like to open the meeting with a request to our for county council to tell us about item number 1 on the agenda.
Hopefully it's fairly self-explanatory, but basically for this work session, we can talk about things going forward, but we can't talk about any of the pending criminal matters because that gets into the DA's kind of area. So if the conversation goes that way, I'll bring it back, but if it persists in that direction, then we'll probably just have to call it into the work session because it's very important that we don't get into that. So I just wanted to put it up front.
There was no plans to on my side, so.
Thank you. And we have 2 new arrivals. John Rowe, County Roadmaster. Steve, Assistant County Counsel.
Sorry.
Oh, no, fine. We just started. We're late too. You're really right on time. The purpose of this meeting in my mind is to find a way forward so that Raymond can continue the good work he has started and continues to do. However, we have some requirements that the county would need in order for this work to continue, and hopefully they're not impossible to meet. I think there are some ways to work together, and so I'll go through these here. They're under item 2 of the agenda. We would need a permit, or Raymond would need a permit, his crews would need a permit to work in the county right-of-ways, specific by place and time. We're concerned about lack of insurance coverage. By and large, we're working on private land. We believe the counties to be a part of this, that it's important that we have permission from those landowners, written permission to do this work, which is great work. We have to be able to arrange for and coordinate the roadside pickup of the collected trash so that it doesn't remain in our road right-of-ways as a potential road hazard and as a magnet to draw other people who see that there and this is a handy place to dump, and so it kind of becomes counterproductive. We're picking up more, or we're getting more roadside garbage as a result of our effort to pick it up. And then we have to figure out somehow how to pay for the cost of collecting the garbage from alongside the roads, delivering it to the county transfer station, and then continuing on and delivering it to a landfill or to a recycling center. Not all recycling is free. Tires, for instance, cost us a minimum of $110 a ton to dispose of. You picked up a remarkable amount of tires in the first half of this year. I'd like to then look if there are potential partners that we could bring in to help Raymond and his crews meet some of the requirements we talked about, and then consider the unintended consequences of what you're doing. I have some concerns that when people see stacks of waste alongside the road nicely packaged up as you do, that's kind of a magnet to attract more such waste. So those are our concerns. I'll open up for discussions regarding the requirements. First on the county side, does the county council wish to elaborate on this? Road department, community corrections, Cheryl, it's solid waste.
Are we gonna do the Adopt a Road program?
We
That has its own permit
yeah.
for that, and that's strictly meant to pick up trash alongside the roadway. I mean, that's visible.
On the county easement.
The county would pick that up, because, you know, once in a while, there's a few mattresses that people lay out on that you can see, but that's about it. It's not meant to go clear off into the bushes and drag everything out, but.
So that, you know, that's a way of taking care of some part of the refuse that you're collecting, but not all. And then how do we distinguish between that which is anticipated under the Adopt a Road program and that which, you know, you're doing?
I believe the plan that I've been able to come up with Cam Perry and Deborah Rudd is...
I'm sorry, I coughed, I didn't hear.
Deborah Rudd and Cam Perry is, and I've talked to Scott, the roads manager, about it. He's willing to be a liaison for the projects to be able to go forward, which would be the Adopt a Highway program somehow, if I can get snuck in there to be able to work on every road. Because at this point, it's necessary, needed, and that's what I'm going to do and need to do. Libby has proven that. I did research on there. Every 2 weeks, I got 20 to 30 bags of trash average. So that shows a maintenance plan is needed for most of the roads. And I think if I got tucked in there in the Adopt a Highway program, that would resolve liability and dump fees for the stuff on the county easements, what people can see just driving down the roads. I believe with Scott as liaison, we can find ways to have the written permission for the property owners, which would be mostly government land and timberland, as we all know, is where most of the trash is anyways.
But I haven't heard none of that from Scott, that he's gonna be a liaison.
I spoke with him, and I've talked with Cam about it, but I spoke with him and he said he'd be more
Or
willing.
Scott Murray.
But
Yes.
Scott works for John, so he needs to run that through John.
Yeah, he needs to run it through.
Well, he said he'd be willing to do it, so that's where I'm presenting it here, and I believe he'd be
Did he know
a
about the
great
meeting
person.
today?
Yeah, I'm surprised he's not here. I've been working on trying to find a resolution for this since it happened. So I believe that'll cover most of the issues at hand.
Well, I'm kind of coming into this just today, so I'm trying to kind of put all the pieces together. Are you a nonprofit? Do you have your own
I'm
organization?
a registered nonprofit corporation
So you
with
have
the
a-
Department of Revenue, but that gives me an employer ID number. With Abandoned Dunes, I was working with them to get my 501c3 and the money to pay for that, and a website and functioning costs, which actually got held up because of the tickets, which
Okay,
was something
So do you have a board?
I have a board. I have a
You have
board
a
of
president, a
3.
vice president, a
Mhm.
secretary, and a treasurer?
I have a board of 3. I can't find more than that at the moment, but I am working on that with Deborah Rudd. She's willing to be part of that. So yeah, I was full steam.
So you have the paperwork that you could present for that? I mean, that you could show
Well,
us?
through the Abandoned Dunes, the 501c3 will be handled, but I have the paperwork for the registered with the Department of Revenue. So other than
So
that,
who's on your board?
It would be my brother, my mother, and me at the moment. Deborah Rudd would like to be part of it, and then some other people will be implied, which I have William here and his wife that are willing to be part of it
So
too.
do you have a bank account? So like when you accept donations,
Business account?
yeah, that
Yes.
money goes into it? Because I know I had to go through all this and I was just trying to,
I've documented everything on cards and through bank accounts.
accountability, and then you have to have meetings once a month and minutes.
And that at one point I was, but then without the funding to even be able to function, it just kind of seemed futile to be doing that. Plus, really, I'm the only one putting full time into it. But that is the plan, is to have a full board employees, because really this problem goes as far as needing to deal with the homeless, having a place to be able to dump their trash, to maintenance on the roads, so there's a
So
large
on the
program.
business side of this, I mean, you're
needs
doing
to-
all this wonderful work, but you got this business side we're trying to figure out, I think,
Absolutely.
is what I'm hearing
I
you
was
say.
already on the road for that. I've been working on that from day one. I've had
But when do you think you'll have it all in place?
it's contingent against these charges at the moment.
So you're kind of on
I can't
hold.
move forward on that until the charges are dropped. That was another one of my requests, is so I can move forward to get my 501c3 and have the ability to get the funding needed to do real cleanups and have paid crews and get the momentum going and create the business that's needed to maintain it.
Is there a model you've looked at other places around the country or anything?
Nobody does what I do. There
Nobody in the
isn't-
United States does this?
Nobody pulls out mass tonnage of trash year-round. That is another issue with the liability insurance, because 15 places I called said they didn't really understand why it was I needed that kind of liability, but they said they don't have that coverage. One place gave me a quote of $1,500 a year, which isn't bad for me, 2 volunteers, and the liability for the county. That's only for 2 volunteers. If I have a 3rd volunteer show up, I have to send them away unless I have event insurance, which costs $300 to $400 per event. So 100 events would cost me $30,000 a year. So that's kind of an impossibility, especially at this point. With the way Surf Riders does it, they have a sign-up sheet, a waiver, which is they're there volunteering, and they're waiving the right to be able to sue for being there. A lot of other cleanup crews do that also. It's just a waiver that they sign. Solve does it. I have that form, and I was going to pretty much kind of work about the same off of theirs, and I'm kind of working off of how these other programs like Surf Riders and Solve and all of them have created their working base to make their programs work.
So do you get paid to do what you're doing?
Right now I'm doing it full-time, so I'm the only employee because my bills are being covered.
So it's paid
Kinda.
for the funds, the donations that come in, and then your
That's
boards.
part of the functioning costs.
And you're accounting for that, and then they're paying you out with a check?
I've been working off of donations, selling my art, can drives. Other than that,
I'm just trying to focus on the business end of it, to make sure you're
It would be
okay.
grants coming in. The first one with Abandoned Dunes would probably go through the CCEC in Charleston, which would be functioning costs for 2 years, website, and 501c3 costs. And then with the 501c3, I can really try to dig for what grants there might be, like the one that I was presented at the beginning of October. I just didn't have enough time to file for it because the file date was the end of October.
I sent it to you before that. I sent it to you as soon as
It was-
Representative DeFazio's office.
Yeah, it
sent
was
to
the
me.
beginning of October is what my email showed.
Do you have anybody
I
from,
just didn't have the time really, so.
do you have anybody from the community other than your family on your board? Because you probably...
Deborah wants to try to be part of it, and I think a few other people do, and they're part of the community too, and, then there's many other people like Jared,
Yeah, you
the
would
the
need-
volunteer, he
yeah.
wants to be full-time in it too, because he just have the passion and the care and the drive
Well,
for it.
again, I'm coming from more of the business side of things
Mm-hmm.
to try to help, to make sure you have the setup right so you don't get in trouble, because that could be a big thing for you if you were taking in funds and, having that process and having that set up correctly and just to cover yourself.
That's what I've been trying to do the whole time. That's why I've documented every single thing I've done and every donation that I've gotten.
Sure.
And most of the funding I've worked for myself through my art and through the can drives and, everything else, yard sales. My mom even babysits, as you can
Sure.
see, just to try to keep us continuing this
Sure.
program. So I'm doing whatever it takes to make this happen. So hopefully I get my 501c3, that's going to put me on a whole new level, and then, of course, following all the right avenues with the help from the kind people, Abandoned Dunes, and Deborah Rudd, and the other community members that want to help, but are honestly standing back at the moment until I can get the charges resolved.
Okay.
So, but I believe with this program, and if we can get Scott or somebody as a liaison to work with me getting contacts with each government agency, like the forestry, the BLM, and everybody. So when I do find trash, we could just make some calls. It's set up. The forestry could pay for theirs. BLM could pay for theirs. Whatever I find in the county, you guys, I'm sure don't mind paying for it or can pay for that.
Right.
County properties. So and we'll just set everyone liable for it. Timber companies is going to be one of the big issues, obviously. There's a lot of timberland and a lot of trash on the timberland. So that would be an avenue that we try to have to work out too.
Yeah, especially on Seven Devils. Most of the trash is on.
A lot of it's the timberland. Yeah. Or Campbell, there's Campbell Company out there too, like the Sunset sites on Campbell Company, or was, I believe they were sold. So.
One of the main issues with using the Adopt a Road program is that it includes liability waivers. I don't know if you've already seen it or not. That's kind of well, there's two things. One, it includes liability waivers, but when those contemplate working in the right of way, so we're talking about just the edge of the road, that those waivers don't contemplate going down into canyons and pulling out heavy items and things like that.
Yeah, I understand that.
So I think what you're doing is considerably more dangerous than what those liability waivers contemplate. And so that's one of the reasons for the insurance requirements. The other is typically when someone adopts a road, it's an organization. It's Kiwanis, it's Rotary. It's a group that is either has insurance or has, if somebody did get injured, has a more there's a place to go to. There's a pocket to reach into to fix that. Without having those funds readily available, my position in the county's office is that it puts the county at risk if something bad were to happen while you're out picking up trash.
Isn't that what the permit from the county does, is relinquishes the liability on your guys' behalf for my actions?
It's a different permit for the Adopt a Road.
Okay, but then there's the one I signed for the roads department, which pretty much relinquished liability against the county.
Those are...
We wish.
Yeah,
It's not that simple.
Well, that's all that paper said.
But that could be the intent of it. But that's the same type of what that contemplates is that the county is being released from liability because somebody else is able to pick that up. And so if somebody gets hurt and they sue, name you in a lawsuit and name the county in the lawsuit, they're going they will do that. And the reason they'll do that is because they assume that it's going to be easier to collect money from the county.
So with my volunteers signing a waiver saying they won't and can't do that, that would resolve that issue, wouldn't it, with the volunteers? And then
in my opinion, it wouldn't be effective because we would know ahead of time that in order for that to be effective, there has to be some other place for them to go to have a pocket to reach into to cover that amount that they would.
Them being out there on their own responsibility, it kind of makes their own medical coverage, which is
Right, but see, you've got a Facebook page. You're telling people, come out to Libby Road and, you can pick up trash with me.
Okay.
And so, a court might look at it as, well, you invited them out there. And then they were in a situation, they fell, they broke their leg. There's nobody else to recover from. Frankly, the county's pockets are probably deeper than yours. And so it'll be the county that will end up having to recover.
even with them signing a paper waiving the right to be able to do that.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean,
So
yeah.
what's the way around it? Having the insurance.
Having the
that I was
insurance
talking
is the
about.
way around.
Okay, so but then that causes me the issue of if I have 2 volunteers at $1,500 a year, if I have a third one show up, do I have to send them away?
Well, I can't really answer that for you.
Well, that would be the issue, is
Right.
being able to allow volunteers. How does surf riders do it? How does Solve do it? And that's, I was just saying, that's how they do it. They sign a waiver saying that they will not sue. They're there knowing that there's a chance that they might get hurt. If they do, it's their own
But
responsibility.
they're not working with the county,
And they're
surf riders and those guys, are they?
And that's a waiver is really only effective if there's an alternate source that you can collect from. If there is no alternate source, then waivers.
So when they're on Bassendorf, they have an alternate source.
Well, no, Surf Rider's a fairly large organization that
know.
has the funding to take care of any claims that might come against them.
Yeah, but they have their volunteers sign a waiver saying that
Right.
they're not going to be able to sue them anyway.
Right.
So.
The waiver just, honest to God, if you fell and broke your leg, you might as well wrap the waiver around it for all the good it's going to do you.
Okay, so unless I have the money to be able to fix somebody's broken leg, then I can't be cleaning up the massive amount of trash
Well,
that's
no,
on private properties.
that's why we're suggesting that insurance would be the solution to that.
That would hold me back to 2 volunteers only. Unless I
It
was
would
just
with
doing
that
it
one
myself.
policy you found. Perhaps there's another way around it.
I've looked for others and I still get told that they don't carry that kind of coverage. And surf riders don't have the coverage except for the main people in their corporation. I don't believe the chapter actually has liability coverage on them. It's all volunteer based. Solve does the same thing. It's all a waiver, so I understand how they can do it, and it wouldn't work for us. We could check into it more, but
It's hard to have that conversation without somebody from.
yeah,
the
at this point,
table.
with being able to have volunteers come out whenever they want to, like if I have an event, 10 show up when I thought there was going to be 5 or 2 only. I can't, we send those 10 people away saying you can't because my liability doesn't cover you because I can't pay $30,000 to $60,000 a year for it.
Right.
So I just hope there is a way that we can work around that. Which, nice to see you, Scott. We're talking about you being the liaison. I know you and me talked about that a little bit. I guess that's something you need to talk to John there about to fine tune it. But that's what I was saying with all the other details. Scott and me can figure out the plan to make the whole program work. If that's...
Well,
It's your department, John.
It's time consuming. And I think even the Adopt a Road program, we should exclude all the roads that have sponsors already.
That's all of them though. And I've already proven that the Adopt a Highway programs are a failure.
That list is how many are...
Yeah, that's not really my program either, but yeah, I know.
See, nobody really knows anything about it because nobody's been out there cleaning up for years. I know the state,
That why it's not...
the state Adopt a Highway program is doing the same thing right now because I've woken them up to the idea or the fact that nobody's been doing that. They are obligated to do it 3 to 4 times a year, and they have not been. So they are going through and that's what they're doing is going through that list. But even with them, I'm asking them if there's some way I can get underneath there because the roads need to be done more than 3 or 4 times. And
We still need to check with those people why they're not.
Yeah, of
if
course.
they're doing it.
Even if they are, I still would like to do it more than 3 or 4 times a year. So if I can be underneath their group or however it is that's the details that need to be worked out. So I can work on every road without the liability.
And it is, I mean, it's a difference if you're talking about, doing the Adopt a Road is for that right away, that 30.
The county easement, 38 foot from center. Yeah, I'm very aware of that. I'm very aware of what the Adopt a Highway program is.
Okay, sure.
Yeah,
So
it's just the county easement.
Right, it's not the stuff over the edge.
Yes.
Okay. I mean, that's a big difference.
And I do know that. That's why on Libby I was doing nothing from June but till November but cleaning the county easement. And it wasn't an issue up until I cleaned Olive Arbor, obviously, which I understand there was a lot of trash there, but that's how every road is the first time I clean it around here. That's why what I'm doing is so imperative.
30 foot from center line is not that far.
I know that. I have measuring tapes in my truck. I've been working construction a long time. I'm pretty good with them. So I know what I was doing out there. But I know the Adopt the Highway program, I believe, will resolve a lot of issues, which I'm just looking if that's a possibility. Because like you said, you'd want to be able to move forward, so I've got a plan that we could use to move forward with.
I think that's a distinct possibility. I think from a practical standpoint, we somehow have to, if we go forward with an Adopt a Road program, you're going to have to, I don't see how you can do both that and go down over the edge of the cliff and drag everything up from there.
That would be separate. So the road cleanups would give me the ability and cover the liability and disposal of the trash from the county easement. Then we'll work on a program to get written permission and disposal and cleanup plan in place before we clean it up. So I'd be getting hold of the property owners, state, BLM, timberland, whatever it is, and having it set up so disposal is taken care of. And the details of that, I was hoping to be able to work out with Scott and me, and then whatever might need to be asked of you guys, he can ask of you guys, and we can just move forward with the program.
Well,
Unless that's an issue.
No, the difficulty is, and I don't know that we're getting this through clearly, but John is Scott's boss.
Yes.
And so it's up to John whether or not Scott has the time.
That's
And
great.
John hasn't been asked that yet, and he hasn't answered that question yet. So it's difficult when we keep saying, you and Scott will do this, because it actually hasn't been, as far as I know, without stepping on John's
We can
toes.
try it.
He hasn't said that he has time.
I guess.
I mean, essentially, I'm going to give you a few calls. Well, I was thinking we have a list of phone numbers and contacts to the government land and timberlands for the cleanups. We set it up so we have disposal pretty much taken care of, and we just get out there and get it cleaned up.
When you say disposal taken care of, is that?
That would be the payment of the disposal for a certain amount, because I can look at something and judge how much trash is there by now. I've been doing it for a full year, so I'm pretty good at it. I have 76 sites already,
What would your
so.
program be for getting the trash from the side of the road to the county transfer station?
Well, and that would be what we could set up, because if I asked at the beginning if I could dump for free, I would haul the trash there. I have trailers, I can get trailers, I can get trucks, and that's a possibility, you know, dump truck, whatever it takes. That's a possibility, is hauling it there myself.
The only issue we kind of had there was, if we go ahead with the plan this time, we'd like a pre-designated area, because the guys that were picking it up, we're having, some of the areas were a little sketchy for them as far as traffic.
Well, the bags just being set out there, yeah. With the large piles, I always set those in a good spot, which if I was hauling them, they'd be loaded in a vehicle and just taken away. But that's the
Yeah.
details that can be worked out with whoever.
Yeah, we would just like the option to pre-approve those spots.
Well, that's what our program would be, is to pre-approve the whole situation, whole cleanup and everything, and then I could have it planned and get out there, get volunteers together and have it cleaned up.
And then you want the county to pay for the cost of disposal? Is that what?
Well, it'd be on the county land, and hopefully we can get I know the forest paid for theirs, the BLM paid for theirs.
Who's the forest? The county forest?
Forest Service.
The Forest Service. Is
Yeah.
there Forest Service land out there?
The
Yeah,
county forest
there's a chunk.
department did pay for one spot that they did.
It was the only spot I did, that was the chunk,
That's the
because it's so
only thing
chopped
that's
up
been
out there
paid.
on Seven Devils.
so when you go into private property, does the landowner pay for that?
That
When
was
you-
government and timberland. And timberland I was sent
Oh,
on
I thought
to.
I heard you say you went into private.
The
drug
private
stuff
property
is-
being talked about is the, mostly the government land and timberland. There's only two properties that are citizen owned, and both of those I've gotten verbal permission, which I can get written from both of them, and I am working on
But do they
that.
pay for the garbage disposal that you drag off their property?
One, no. The other one, I've only contacted them once, but that was when the county was assisting and there wasn't an issue with where those tires were coming from.
Sure.
So I am working
Okay.
on that, though.
The only thing that I might be kind of a little concerned to think about is if you go into that private land, then what's going to stop people from saying, hey, take my garbage for free, and then all of a sudden you've got to open
I've had
kind
people
of
ask me.
can of worms,
I've
you
had
know,
people
on the
know
private.
that it's not an open can of worms, my program. My program's very tight-knit. People have asked to dump trash, dump tires. I do
Sure.
not accept that. The cleanups I'm doing are 50 to 100 years old.
Well,
It's obvious
There's
old
no
stuff.
doubt what you're doing is a wonderful
When I-
thing.
when I-
It's just the figuring out the payment of it.
Oh, and that's the thing, it's on mostly government land and timberland, because the dump sites are in places that you cannot see houses, because that's not where people are
Right,
gonna
but that
dump.
doesn't make it county land.
I didn't say it was county
Or
land.
government
It's
land.
all government land and timberland where my 76 sites are, so. And I have them mapped, and I know their GPS coordinates and
So
what
you're not going
properties
to
they're
go
on.
onto private property and pick garbage up,
The,
is what I'm hearing you say.
well, the roads I'm cleaning up on are all the county roads that are the back roads where there are no houses really. There are a few properties on Seven Devils that are pretty much landfills that would be nice to find a way to clean them up, but I can guarantee the property owner can't pay for it. And all in general, it needs to be cleaned up, so some plan needs to be put in place to clean up some of the sites. At this point, it's mostly government and timberland that I've worked on.
Okay, because we did look up, I mean, there was one site where you were working, I know, where we looked and it was a private landowner.
And that would be the tire site, right?
I think it's a tire site, I can't remember the name.
Yeah, that's the tire
Yeah.
site. They bought it 15 years ago. They hadn't walked that corner of it. It's a 20 to 30 acre lot, and they had no idea about it. It was dumped in 1980s. So Old Libby Road's pushed over the top of it, whether it was known or not. There's trash and tires just flung down there into a spring. That one's very important to get cleaned up for me, which, since you guys have stopped helping, I've been able to get rid of some of them for people's art projects, retaining walls, because they're big semi-tires. I got a tire company and Les Schwab saying they're willing to dispose of one dumpster load for me, so
Great.
I would like to continue working on that site, and the wall of tires is to keep people from dumping in the road I made. But I have been moving the tires, and I would like to continue doing that, because I have avenues to get rid of those tires. I would just like to get them out of the spring that's down there. It's flowing heavily now.
Let's
That-
go back for a minute to adopt a road program. This is something the county has encouraged, and we do, and the volume over the years has been minimal, has it not, Cheryl, from adopted road programs?
Correct, it has been.
Yeah, and it's,
Yeah.
and
Most of it is what community service picks up,
Yeah.
brings in. I mean, there are a couple of people that do pick up on county roads.
But it costs us money, a lot of money, to haul this stuff off. We ultimately have to take it to a landfill.
With the Adopt a Highway program?
Yes, for any waste that is.
I talked to them and they said that was covered in part of the program. All I had to do was fill out the paperwork and it was good to go.
But it still costs.
I'm agreeing.
I mean, not necessarily you, but there is a cost.
There is,
Yeah.
yeah. What I'm saying is, it's been a small program that's worked quite well, and we've been able to absorb that out of the county budget. However, if volumes that you pick up are immense, we're gonna run out of money. And so I think the Adopt a Road program is a great idea. I just can't say, let's go out and do that from now on. We have to kind of see what that amounts to and whether we have the resources.
Well, no, I'll have to correct you on the Adopt a Highway program working well, because I've been out there on the roads and it hasn't been working at all. It's one of the reasons I started this, so.
And that's fine. My point is, Raymond, we don't have very much money.
So there'll be a limitation on it
I
at the
think we
moment
have
from what
to-
you're saying?
We have to see how it goes and kind of feel our way into the program so we know what it is we're talking about.
Okay.
What our budget consequences are. I just am not comfortable saying,
Without knowing, I
go
can
forth
appreciate that,
and
yeah.
collect all the garbage and bring it to us and we'll take care of it, because we don't have the resources.
Well, and then all the
to do that.
details, is like I was saying, of the plans we can work out.
But like we tried at the
In time.
first part of this year, we did it for a couple of weeks at a time, saw how it worked, saw about what the volumes that you were presenting were, and it seemed to be about 500 tons every 2 weeks, as I recall, and we had enough money to cover that for the first half of the year. So I really like what you're doing. I just got to make sure that we can afford it too. And
Well, I'm working with all the other property owners. I believe we can help create
Well,
the,
that's my thought. We start with a couple roads that aren't or sponsored yet. I want to get a hold of everybody who has an Adopt a Road program and see what they're doing. We'll do that. We can start with a couple.
That would be the first
Have
step, of
Scott
course, yeah.
Monitor the pickup and stuff and see how it works.
Great.
Yeah, and we would like the approval of what roads you're on, because like right now, we have roads that are in dangerous conditions, like Seven Devils. We just had a slide out there and we have it closed. So we don't, we want to stay away from those until we get things stabilized.
well, that's kind of what we did at the beginning too. I was communicating with you, and that's when I believe you told me that whoever adopted the highway on Old Seven Devils was paid some money to clean up the massive mess out there, maybe the property owner or something. But there's a huge mess out
I
there.
don't remember their names, to tell you the truth.
It's
James
Floyd,
family or
Lloyd,
Lloyd family?
Fralin,
Lloyd.
and Fralin, and Lloyd and Fralin, that's what it was. Either way,
paid?
Any avenue that we can
paid them to
find
clean it up?
We'll pick a couple.
to,
No,
to
they
take
just-
care of this, yeah.
They did their own, but then they did just the roadside, normal couple bags. It was.
Okay.
And roadside isn't that
Oh,
far,
nobody
30 foot
paid
from
them.
center, you can actually clean up some of that hill too, but to get down there and pull that trash up is not easy.
Right, but just to clarify, we didn't pay them
No,
to do
no.
that.
It wasn't the county, no, I obviously had to be the property owner, which is Timberland, I believe, still in that area.
Don't know.
Once you get past the county easement, which is pretty much the same, that whole area, so that would be a huge avenue, is getting a hold of them to help with the funding of the dump fees, and part of the cleanup would be very nice.
Most of that land on the old Seven Devils is Weyerhaeuser's down, but there is some
Mhm.
private pieces.
I think it'd be to their advantage too. They're gonna log that someday and they can't go through there to cut trees down with all the trash.
Well, hopefully we can get a hold of them. I've heard the community tell me that they would be more than willing and happy to help out, you know. I'm out there doing the hard work, so.
I've seen it. I've been over the side there.
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's real bad.
So who's gonna pick up, and how do I know who should be charged for what?
If I brought it there, I would have to say it's gonna be me for the time being, or a well-known,
And so like if it's off
Worker.
Weyerhaeuser, you're gonna have a letter from them specifying that they'll pay for that?
I think that's the only way we can do it, and just keep it right, is if I just monitor the entire program.
see, I can believe we could do it through phone calls and just contact of what road I will be working on, what sites, because we'll have a pre-plan for everything. That way it's known what I am doing and what's planned for the next month or two, because I'd like to plan out further.
Would this entail keeping separate your activities as part of the Adopt the Road program and your activities as going
Yeah.
onto private property
Okay.
and bringing up other?
Yeah, because I mean, the size of the road, obviously I proved on Libby, you know, every 2 weeks, you know, getting an average of 25 to 30 bags is ridiculous. And that was just the county easement. I was just cleaning what people could see, and for that much to accumulate every 2 weeks, it's horrible. What's funny is the 8th time when I did get the tickets, I only got 10 bags off the road that time. I wish I could have kept my research going to see if it was actually, you know, a fluke, or if what I was doing was working, being out there all the time. People were not throwing as much out, or being concerned about their loads being tied down and whatnot. A few people I know were stopping and cleaning up, because I asked people, stop, take 5 minutes, pick up that little section you see. If everyone did that, it would be a lot cleaner, because there are going to be the people that are just pigs and not going to worry about it forever. So just to be able to continue my program, continue, you know, bringing awareness to the community, inspiring, you know, kids and families, and, you know, these kids wanted to take the time to come here because they really are passionate about what I'm doing. Many schools are passionate about what I'm doing. Marshfield, they got a whole program going to clean up their campus because I went up there and cleaned their parking lot. It took me 5 hours. I got 8 bags of trash.
That's,
But
wow.
in doing it was embarrassing. I saw the
Well, that
place.
should
I
be
shamed
theirs.
them on
It's
my
not-
page. I could not believe the campus. It would have taken me 2 days of hard work to clean it myself. I talked to a science teacher. They now have programs that are educating the kids on keeping their campus clean. And, you know, that's the biggest benefit to me to this program, is to be able to continue inspiring people, which continuing cleanups and showing the trash that people don't realize is there and how much is actually on the sides of the road is a big part of the program. And it's really shown the community how much they need to step up and care about this problem and take care of it. I think with all of us working together, we can solve this, we can make a difference. You know?
Okay, let's talk specifics about Adopt the Road program. If we were to do that, you would arrange through Scott, with the road department, to clean up a specific section of the county roads at a specific time.
Yeah, I give you a time, date, miles that I would aim to try to clean, and then you know, I'll be doing the same thing with
And it would be limited to just the right of way.
Yeah, I'll just be cleaning the right of ways.
How is the material picked up?
Well, I could bag it and have it all in one spot, or bring it in.
So what do you normally do?
Well, right now, we have the juveniles that do help us out a lot.
And who pays?
Our
How's that bill
resources, and I don't want to speak for John, but our resources are pretty stretched as far as going out with the county equipment and picking it up right now.
So we're not doing it.
We're not picking
So
Dollar-wise,
I'll happily bring it in. I really
Nobody's
don't
paying.
mind.
Pardon me?
Nobody's paying.
No.
As long as I have the gas to make it there, I'll bring it in.
You know, the other option is maybe approach Waste Connections again.
I'm not sure they want that.
Jim has,
I think they're-
Yeah.
Jim Seeley has some input.
I was told that it's not even really worth trying, so.
Jim?
I asked multiple times on
Okay,
it.
Ray has mentioned Bandon Dunes Golf Resort a number of times here, and I'd like to make everybody, help everybody understand what our involvement is. I'm Jim Seeley, executive director of the Wild Rivers Coastlines. We're the philanthropic arm of Bandon Dunes, so the discussions that Ray's had have been with the Wild Rivers Coastal Alliance, not with Bandon Dunes Golf Resort, just as a technical matter. Our involvement of this started with an article that I think it was in the Oregonian on trash dogs in Curry County, and it was read by Al Johnson, one of our steering committee members. He lives in Bend, and he told us that he was aware of an organization in Coos County called Leaven No Trace, and he thought we ought to look into it. So we did, and Cam Perry is on our steering committee, and Cam's been helping us with this, and we've had 2 meetings with Ray and Deb Rudd, and we've tried to understand where this project is and whether there was a role that we could play as a funder in this. And what we have learned is that there's a person with a passion to do something that badly needs to be done in Coos County. And there are a couple of lacking steps, and one of those is the need for a 501c3. And we have helped organizations form 501c3s, not because we're experts at it, but because we can help fund it. And that part of that includes the articles of incorporation and the bylaws that ensue, and then what we require for becoming a donor in these kinds of things is a business plan. And as I hear all the discussion here, I hear a lot of great ideas, and I hear the opportunity for a good, strong public-private partnership. I don't mean that in a legal sense, but the public and this private organization wants to try to do something about this. And what really needs to happen in our opinion at this point is that some of these technical steps need to get covered. And Ray is passionate about removing trash and being a leader in the community of setting an example. He's not an expert in forming these kinds of things, nor would we ever want him to spend his time doing that. So what we've done is reached out to South Coast Development Council and to the Nonprofit Association of Oregon to see if we could, and we've worked with both of them before in helping entrepreneurs develop ideas. We reached out to them to see if there's a way that we can participate in helping them do this technical side, so that all these questions, how do we do this, what if, those get answered in the bylaws, the articles of incorporation, and the business plan. And that's not going to be a small, easy thing to do. So the important thing to us is to see a genuine desire for this private-public partnership to take place and happen. And at that point, we can then step in and see to what extent we can best help make it happen, so that it satisfies the requirements on everybody's side, including insurance liability. So that's where Bandon Dunes has been involved. It's really Wild Rivers Coast Alliance, and we're very interested in this. And I'm here at this meeting to kind of test the waters to see how strong the desire is for this private-public partnership to go forward.
Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
To that end, I was asked by another significant business entity in the county if they could help. It was just an exploratory question. I won't tell you who they are, or can't commit that they will, but they expressed an interest. And that's where it starts. And so that was important. It was encouraging to think there might be sources to help us with some of the issues that have been a hurdle for the county. So, where do we go from here? It seems to me we need some groundwork laid, and Jim has started down that road already. Would you and Raymond be able to work together with that, in concert with perhaps someone from council and someone from roads, to come back with a business plan and approach?
And having the approach, the information, and the details on it is the only way you can come up with a business plan. But once we can hash out the details of it and figure out a good way for it to work, a business plan would definitely be the next step.
Community corrections may have something to add to that.
Well,
They have work crews that they get together from time to time and may be able to participate. There's a cost to it all, and we all have limitations, so. I think I'd like to see us go forward with something like that with the understanding that until we really know what the costs are going to be, it's hard to say how much of a partner, how big a partner, financial partner we can be in this endeavor. Can't just give you an open book to bring as much refuse in as you can possibly get. But
Just like at the beginning, there was a bunch of assets I didn't know of, and that's all we need to keep doing is digging and finding those assets to make it happen. The way the roads can look a little cleaner. Water can have less trash in it.
Great.
Melissa, do you have thoughts,
Differences?
differences? I don't want to go down a road that, I'm but one of 3 commissioners, and so we have to be in accord on this, or at least 2 of us do.
No, it's a shame Bob wasn't here today because I know he had some questions too. But no, I think that makes sense to put together a group and work on something. You know, we need something laid out, something concrete, as opposed to just a lot of thoughts. And I mean, if we have some clear ideas of what you're looking for, I think that helps us know what we can do and what we can't do. So I know Steve's been working on this.
Yeah. And for my office's role, it's probably better if we advise the road department with their questions.
Correct.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And I guess for what it's worth, I kind of like to start off somewhat slow, limit it perhaps to the Adopt the Road program and the land that covers, see what volumes that creates.
If I'm working with the BLM or forest and they're taking the trash from me, that isn't going to cause an issue with you guys, is it?
If they're willing to take the trash and pay for it, that would be good. And community corrections might even be able to participate in picking that up.
Well,
and billing them for it.
This city, state,
That gets
BLM,
back
and
into the
forest have all
insurance
been
problem.
more than
If
happy
he's
to take
working
my
on the
trash,
Adopt a
even the
Road
other
program, then
counties.
we don't have
So I
an
have no
insurance
issues
problem.
there.
If he's, if we start partnering at all with him working off the road, then we get back into the insurance issue. So
that would be a concern that we would have if our people go out and they're going to pick up stuff off the right of way. They have to stay there because once they go off, then we got huge liability if one of them gets hurt.
exactly.
So we're more than willing to
Very
pull
good.
up onto the county right away
And at the minimum,
if we ever need to
Well,
help.
that's where I've always usually stacked the trash anyways, is right in the county right away. It's the most convenient spot on a turnout or something, but
Yeah, we can't send our people down into canyons
I
or anything like
also have
that.
some issues.
Never asked them
If
to.
I'm taking out a crew to pick up the trash that they picked up, I'm concerned about what they're picking up. Libby Lane is notorious for hypodermic needles. And we generally don't pick up broken glass because people get cut with it. If you're picking up those things and throwing them in bags, and our crew's picking them up, just grabbing the bag, there's potential they're going to get injured.
well, and of course, I would always keep the hypodermic needles in the hazard jar that I have.
Oh, you
Because I don't just haphazardly do this and haven't haphazardly done it from the beginning. Well, I've been trying to separate all recyclables and take them home with me, including glass, because it's recyclable. So, yeah, and safety's been my first priority. That's why I've done this for a year, and no one's ever gotten hurt. Never
We
had
had
an
any
issue.
training in bloodborne pathogens, that training,
Say that again?
bloodborne pathogen training.
Have I?
Anything with blood on it that you can get.
Yeah.
I mean, our crews have it be.
He's asking if
wise
you've had any
for
training.
you to probably have some training.
Wouldn't be a bad idea. I'm always ready to learn something new. Honestly, it's only the hunters that leave stuff like that anyways. The stuff I'm cleaning up is, again, 30 to 50 to 100 years old. Is most of the stuff off the sides of the cliff. The stuff on the sides of the road is, I can't tell you the last time it was cleaned up, but it was a very, very long time ago. So it was like, I'd say 10 years old. Because it's some of the stuff I'm
To help
pulling out of
us
there.
identify or guesstimate what the costs associated with this might be, can you, in terms of bags of garbage, give us an estimate of what you might pick up in a week's time?
And that's exactly why I did the research on Libby, is so I would have something to look back on. Every road, obviously, first cleanup, I get a lot of bags, a lot of bags. Olive Barber was all off the county easement, and that was a lot. And it's the same thing with Libby. The first time I had the same thing.
How many bags?
Every highway, 163 bags in 3 miles.
Off Olive Barber?
Off the county easement off Olive Barber.
And 3 miles.
And 3 miles. Same thing with the highway. I did 1 mile from North Bend Bridge out to my artwork out there by Hauser. 150 bags of trash, 5 mattresses, 3 TVs in the back of a trailer. It took me 5 days and I didn't finish it. There's more. And that's less than a mile. So the first initial cleanup is going to be pretty big, but then from a 5.5 mile stretch of Libby, every 2 weeks I was getting an average of 25 to 30 bags, and I get that from having 23 to 36 bags. That was where it varied. And then the last time was 10. That was the end of my research. That shows there is a constant maintenance plan that's needed. I am taking all recyclables, so I was probably leaving you guys 25 bags of the trash.
And how long did that take to do that? Over what period of time did you accumulate that?
1 day.
1 day.
Oh,
So,
yeah, I did Libby by myself a few times, 9 hours, 11 miles, walking both ways, 5.5
no
miles.
wonder you're so fit.
I think the tires are doing that. Yeah, that's the reason I did that, is to show the need. Without showing the need, I can't get people to fund me without showing them that there's a need, a constant maintenance need for, people to get paid. And without me showing that need and showing the people that have the money that need, I could never get the funding from them.
I think once you get your 501c and you get everything business-wise lined out and people see that, I think it's going to really help you.
And with everything I've documented and all the information and.
But for now, because you
Yeah.
don't have that, I think once you actually get that, and you will, it's going to be a big help for your program.
Oh yeah, I've been working very hard on that from the very beginning, just conflicting information, and like you said, at this point, it is so complicated that I really need someone that knows what they're doing. So
We had some input.
All I wanted to say was I'm new to the county, but what you've just said really opens up the county, because you've admitted you have a problem on the easement area of the roads. You know that there are beds being dropped by people illegally on publicly owned property, which, going along Libby as I've done, they just leave them out in the middle of the road. You have to swerve to do it. So if I was to hit that on public property, the county is liable. This should be a real priority, even suggesting putting a tax on things which aren't recyclable, like wine bottles, cider cans, where there is no resale tax on it, because the money has to be found, because everybody knows there is stuff dumped on county highways. You've officially admitted that you know there is a problem, but by not doing it, really what Leave No Trace is doing is absolutely an amazing job. He's put out his own time and effort in doing something that the county really, with volunteers, they help, I know, has to do. And it's a priority one. It's like finding a massive sinkhole in the middle of 101 or a county road. It's a real priority. Absolutely. There's no talking about it. It has to be done within, I don't know how long it takes to type out the forms. I don't know about the tax forms and anything like that, but we're aware of it. It's a terrible problem.
Well, and hopefully with the plans that we have, we can find ways to pull a little here, pull a little there, and get it cleaned up so this county doesn't have to look as trashed. So I'm telling you, when I first came into town, my wife cussed me. She's like, "Are you kidding me?" Because it doesn't look good, and that is at least what can be done, is to at least make it look good, even though we know there's tons out there in the forest and in the waterways. It's one step at a time, so I'm sure we can find the solutions. And that's what I'm hoping for.
I would just like to say that, what Ray is doing, if we could all come together as a community, he's inspired my children so much. They get so angry, because I live on the Indian reservation, they get so angry driving down Libby and there's a piece of trash right after Ray went through there and cleaned it up. They get angry. When they're trick-or-treating, they stop and pick up trash. We just were out riding on the dunes on Saturday. Well, the two people parked next to us, they took off and left all their trash. My kids were the first one over there picking up their trash and influenced the other people to pick up their trash off the ground to where they were and pick it up and put it in the garbage.
Yeah, I've had him and a lot of other citizens tell me that their kids can't walk past trash anymore. They have to pick it up, which it's
So
great.
we can
That's
get
amazing. That's the next
all of us
generation.
together,
Yeah,
I think, to influence the younger generation and our generation, to get it together, to come together and say, hey, this is no good. You know, this behavior that, you know, people are teaching their children, it's just going to accumulate more trash.
Yeah, but there's the mission that you're talking about, and then there's the business.
Right.
And you know, they're two very different animals, but they need to work together, and I think that's where some of the issues are.
That's why the problem is there, is because of the issues, and nobody's been willing to dig through them and find ways to resolve them.
All right, so what are our takeaways from this meeting? You guys are going to form a little work group and put together some written plan?
I'd like to.
Then we're going to come back and follow this up?
Yeah, I think that would be a great thing to do.
And you're working on the
Check the
501?
status of the program we have now.
Yeah, that's depending on. I do have to request because I'm not understanding it. The charge against my volunteer.
We cannot discuss this.
Well, I know just the
I'd like to talk about something
Yeah.
else, if I may, because we can't talk about
well-
that. And at some point in time, we need to know what the cost, you know, when you're putting together your business plan.
Right.
If we expect some help from the county, budgets are critical to us.
Right. There's got to be a cost estimate in
We
there.
have to have a cost estimate, some kind of a cost limitation.
Yep.
And so if you might include that in whatever type of a plan you come up with, so that we know where we are and you can try it for a while and see if it works, and if it's in our budget.
Figure out if
Budget's a
the
moving
adopt the
thing.
highway program works.
Yes.
Okay. Well, I hope we can make it work.
So when do you want to do a follow-up work session?
Yeah, I think
Depends on how long it takes to get his plan.
Right.
We can relax,
I'd like a little time just to
Council.
I think that's really soon.
How about you?
Well, when we get together to discuss how to proceed on this, we think it's important that the representatives from the necessary parties always be at the table. So there's going to have to be Ray and somebody with his team, and it's going to have to be, the county's got to have the right people at the table. I don't know whether it's 1, 2, or 3 people. We'll have the right people, and we'll work on getting Nonprofit Association of Oregon involved and get a quote from them on what it's going to take to move ahead with accomplishing what needs to be accomplished, and they'll have to have some preliminary discussions with you to form an opinion on how much time and effort it's going to take on their part. So, but it's really important that all the parties be at the table as we discuss, particularly discuss the business.
Well, I would think from the county standpoint, the people that run the Adopt a Road program, I believe, are the roads, and Cheryl's always deeply involved with anything to do with waste. Need to have her there too.
So I would say just follow up with Bobby when you're ready to have a follow-up work session. We'll do that. I think
So would
makes
that
the most
be
sense.
someone from roads, you'd appoint that? Raymond?
Yeah, I've got his number.
And
With
Cheryl.
We'll stay in contact.
So,
I
Congratulations.
really do have to make one comment. My volunteers are afraid to volunteer with me now. So just so you guys, I had to let you be aware of that. My volunteers are afraid to volunteer with me now. I'd like to resolve that situation.
we cannot discuss that. I don't know if we were not clear enough. The ticket is.
I'm not talking about the ticket.
Well, then.
I'm talking
okay.
about
Going
my
ahead,
volunteers having
going
fear
ahead.
to volunteer with me.
Okay,
so-
well, if you
We're
move
looking
forward
to a
with this
road
plan,
where-
shift
As soon as
to go.
possible
Then
is what I'm
this
asking.
where you won't get a ticket.
Yep.
So
Yeah, I'm not even talking about me. I'm just saying,
Yeah.
my volunteers.
That's what we're working
It's an important part of my program.
you have to do that's what we're working toward today.
Okay.
Is to make sure that you have a program that we're all on board with.
So you can do the work you want to do.
When I just make sure that was aware of part of the issues that hopefully this will resolve, so everyone has it in mind.
Yeah, we want to see this work, yeah, so we just
Okay.
want to find a way to make it work.
Wonderful.
But we have rules we have to abide by, so as you put together your work plan,
Yeah.
take into account the conditions that we ask you to meet.
All right.
And thank you so much.
Thank you.
Very much.
Thank you.
Yeah,